How can we make good conditions for individual creative thinking, and in particular for creativity going on in teams? Try to think about this as a platform on which you go onto when you have to be creative, and you go down from when you have to be normal again. So we have to think about what is the difference between everyday type of work and working on a creative platform. I will now give you a few tools for how you can quickly help yourself and your team to get onto the creative platform itself. First, you need to create a physical and mental state of complete focus. You need to be highly concentrated on the problem at hand. Put all your attention capacity from the entire team onto the problem. Thinking up creative ideas requires a lot of your attention. You cannot be thinking about all other kinds of things and problems in your life and work while you're trying to be creative on this particular problem in front of you right now. But we are constantly bombarded with emails, with interactions, with thoughts about what is also important in our life and work. It's possible to create a temporary space on the platform where we try to avoid the rest of the world, all the other things that are so important, try to get them out of our mind, at least for this amount of time where we want to be creative. Try to think about this setting here, that you, every time you want to be creative, try to go to a space like this where nobody can easily disturb you. Shut your computers down, turn off your phones, all other kind of electronics that may be able to notify you about something else that is important. Also try to find a place where you're not easily disturbed, or other colleagues or friends can walk by, or you can see them through a window or something like that. Tell everyone else that now you have to be focused. You have to be creative, it's important. And that they can reach you once you get out of your platform again. Try also to think about how you can stay focused during your creative work on the platform. Try to think about how you can continue your thought process, coming up with more ideas, more novel ideas, and getting into new directions of thinking continuously during your process. You may find it easy to juggle between 3, 4, 5, maybe even 7 kind of ideas in your mind or in your team. But once you get more, 20, 30 ideas, it becomes more difficult to juggling between the different kind of ideas. And you may find it difficult to even start thinking about the next idea, the 31st idea, 32nd idea, and so forth. In order to avoid putting all our attention onto the ideas we develop first, it's worth using some kind of external memory, like post-it notes, voice recorders, whiteboards, or any other way where you can temporarily store your ideas so you don't have to have them in your working memory. This will allow you to be relieved from these ideas, take them out of your system, out of your thinking, so you can put your attention, your full focus onto the production of more ideas, new ideas, and into new directions of thinking you haven't explored yet during this creative process. Spend a little time taking any ill-defined problem and turning it into a more clear, well-defined problem. It's difficult to be creative on ill-defined problems, particularly when we're working in teams. Problems like, how can we do our work better? How can we increase sales? How can we make this a better workplace? Are way too ill-defined. They are way too abstract to ever produce any hands-on practical ideas for. If you try to work on such ill-defined problems, you will also tend to get very ill-defined abstract solutions. For a problem like, how can we make this workplace nicer to work in? You may get ideas like, we need to be more tolerant, we need to be nicer to each other, we need to have more social interaction. And none of these ideas are really practical ideas. They're more like titles for categories from within you can have a lot of more hands-on ideas. So we don't normally need these abstract ideas. Normally we would need ideas where we can easily visualize. How is this going to be rolled out? What does it look like, this idea, in practice? Think about well-defined problems, more like sub-problems of these more ill-defined. And don't be afraid to slice up an ill-defined problem into 10 or 15 or even 20 smaller sub-problems, because it's more easy to work on them. And very often when you solve one of these sub-problems, you'll find that the solution also covers a lot of the other sub-problems. So you don't waste your time on details, you rather invest time in getting concrete practical ideas rather than these abstract ones. Set clear expectations for what you want to get out of this creative session, meeting, or workshop. One expectation could be that you spend at least 2 hours thinking up all the different kinds of directions of thinking and ideas you can come up with before you start evaluating them. Or you could set an expectation that you want at least 24 different kinds of ideas before you stop your creative efforts. Or that you want 2, 3, or 4 radical new ideas, something that surprises you, something that brings in something new. These expectations become guidelines, and without them, we often end up in a very fuzzy process where some people will start evaluating, some people will try to get more practical details into the first couple of ideas, and others will try to push for more and see if there's more novel, valuable ideas in the pipeline. As such, these expectations really make it more easy for everyone to understand, what do we mean about this creative session? What is the purpose of it? And we can easily count the number of ideas, minutes, or novel ideas that we're actually going for, and then suddenly we've reached our goal. We tend to like exploration during creative sessions. We go for diversity. We want to explore the different potentials before we make up our mind which one is the best. Therefore, it's worth considering how you can increase the diversity of thinking during your creative process. One simple tool is to allow everyone to have a few minutes of creative thinking on their own before they are affected by each other's way of thinking, before you kind of create a strong common pattern for your team. So if you are a normal team, you may present the problem and allow everyone to individually, without any kind of disturbance, think up for 2, 3, maybe 4, 5 minutes. If you are a highly creative team, maybe you can set aside half an hour, 45 minutes of these individual creative sessions before you start sharing ideas and elaborating, producing more ideas together. Because we have different kinds of backgrounds, educational background, work background, and because we have different kinds of hobbies and sports and interests on a daily basis, and because we live different lives and get different stimuli on an everyday basis, we will end up likely in different directions of thinking quite naturally if we just allow some thinking time individually. After some time thinking up creative ideas on your own, you may need some cognitive stimulation in order to get into even more directions of thinking. Here, it would be nice to team up with other people, but try to avoid teaming up in bigger groups like 4, 5, 6, or 7 people. Try to keep it as few people as possible. You don't need much cognitive stimulation in order to get this creativity going. Maybe just pairs or teams of 3. The bigger the group, the higher the fear of judgment. So we want to keep this low as possible in order to allow yourself and your team to share even these wild, novel ideas. We also typically have some productivity problems in bigger teams. A free rider in the team, or even a cognitive competition between trying to produce ideas yourself and trying to listen to all the ideas that are shared by the other people. What are you going to spend your cognitive efforts on? The smaller the group, the more likely you have time to think up your own ideas and listen to the few other people's ideas as possible. The smaller the group, the more likely you'll be able to listen to all the input from the 1 or the 2 others, while you also get time to think up new ideas yourself, using their ideas as cognitive stimulation or stepping stones for getting yourself into new directions of thinking. Particularly for the production of ideas and the elaboration of ideas, we need some diversity of thinking. And this is easier given if you have diversity of professions, diversity of industry, diversity of educational backgrounds, hobbies, and sports. Try to think about creative thinking as combinations of existing experiences, existing knowledge and existing ideas. So we would like to have more of these existing knowledge, experiences, and ideas to use for our combinations. As a metaphor, try to think about knowledge and experience and ideas in terms of a mental library. So in a normal library, you would walk around looking into books for these kind of experiences, knowledge, and ideas. But in a mental library, you have to access it by producing new ideas, by getting inspiration from each other, by listening to other people's perspectives and ideas, and suddenly you can combine it with your ideas. So you need to have as broad a library, a mental library as possible. Of course, you can think about people from across your organization in terms of functions. So you need somebody in production, in the finance department, in the sales department, maybe working together. But you can also think about what their experiences are in terms of hobbies and sports, educational background, cultural background, or any other thing that they have of interest in their life. These are diverse perspectives that can bring in diverse idea combinations.